Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss the pros and cons, do's and don'ts of the 529 plan. A 529 plan is a savings plan for your children or grandchildren or even yourself to enroll in college. So you can start a 529 plan for anybody. It could be yourself, your spouse, your children, or your grandchildren. And again, a 529 plan doesn't mean that you are going to get the federal tax break. You are only eligible for the state income tax exemption. So we will every state will have a website and a plan provider for the 529 plan, and again some states do not have any advantage, tax advantage for a 529 plan. So we will see those details in the following minutes. So why should you do a 529 plan? So why can't you take a loan? So a student who takes a 529 plan, so let us say that the student's parents are investing around $86 a month for 15 years. So they would have invested $15,500 in total, which would become $25,000 over time. But if a student simply borrows and does an education or a student loan, they are to borrow $25,000 and repaying it at a cost of $266 a month, they have spent around $32,000. So which means student loans would cost nearly double the amount of money it takes to do a 529 plan. So that's not in anybody's best interests. So the key question is, first of all, as we discussed earlier, the 529 plan doesn't give you any federal tax break. I mean, there's a small exemption to that. Only your interest grows tax-free. That means that the initial amount you make, it is not pre-tax, it is post-tax. So you don't get any tax break, but once you deposit your money in a 529 plan, the interest on it is not subject to federal income tax. And if you live in a high tax state, but again there are exemptions, like for example the state of California does not give you any tax break. So if you invest in a 529 plan in California, you are doing it with your post tax dollars, but only thing is your interest on your 529 account will grow tax free. And other states like Texas, Florida, Tennessee, Washington, they don't have any state income tax, so there is no advantage in investing money in those states. I mean that there is no tax break involved in investing in those states. And some states like Minnesota, states like California, states like North Carolina, states like New Jersey, they don't give you any state income tax break. So if you live in states like California, Delaware, Hawaii, Kentucky, Maine, New Jersey, North Carolina, you are not doing it for tax break advantages. You're only doing it so that you can save money for your kids' education. But all the other states have a dedicated 529 plan. So all you need to do is Google the name of your state and 529 plan provider. So like for example, you can Google 529 plan provider in Wisconsin, 529 plan provider in Alabama, 529 plan provider in New York, and so on. But please note that there are contribution limits, which means that you cannot contribute unlimited amounts. Generally states provide somewhere around $2,000 to $30,000, up to $30,000 per year per beneficiary can be contributed. So which means that if you have two kids, for example in the state of Pennsylvania, they have a very generous limit of $30,000, and New York has a very generous limit of $10,000. So if you have two kids, each year you can contribute 30,000 each. So that means $60,000 can be completely exempt from state income tax in those states. But these are only the income tax exemptions. So beyond that, so you can even contribute up to $100,000, but the remaining amount that goes beyond the state's contribution limits, they are subject to state income tax, but the interest income on them will not be subject to state income tax. So one good thing about 529 plan, one biggest advantage is that you can save the state income tax. For example, if you save $30,000 in Pennsylvania in 529 plan in a year, Pennsylvania has a state income tax of 5%. So the rate of return on the $30,000 is 5%. You don't get that money, that amount of return in any investment. So you have to save money for college for your kids. So let us say that you get 1%. I mean, you can invest in, there are different types of 529 plans, and you cannot simply go invest money in a 529 plan and start buying stock. It doesn't work that. They have pre-designed plans. So depending upon the age of your child, when your child is estimated to go to college, they have a year maturity based plans with limited exposure to equity, and you can even, like, again, these options can change from state to state. So you can choose a plan that completely invests only in secure bank deposits, for example, but the interest rate would be 1%, which is okay because you're getting 5% state tax exemption in Pennsylvania. Wisconsin, you are getting 7%. So if you invest the maximum amount for that amount of money, you are getting 5%, 7%, which is a very good rate of return. So you add 1% additional return. So that's a very good rate of return on your investment. And more importantly, you are saving money for your kid, which anyway you need to save. You need to come up with that money when they go to college. So in that way, you are dedicating your money, or you are setting aside your money earlier itself. So that is the advantage of this plan. So once you put your money in your 529 plan, you can only withdraw it for qualified educational expenses. So again, you cannot put your kid in any college. Again, all good colleges are covered. So there is a list of colleges, universities that are covered. So all major good universities are covered. So I think some for-profit universities which have very low ratings only are not covered, and even some foreign universities are covered. So even you can take your child and put your child in a foreign university, but there is a list of such universities. I don't think any Indian university is covered. So you can't take your kid to India and make them do a course or a program in India with 529 plan money. You have to withdraw it completely to do that. Okay, so what are the qualified educational expenses that are covered? Tuition and fees, books and supplies, computers, room and board, but again there is a limit. You cannot rent a huge mansion and say that is room and board. No, there is subject to certain limits, and any special needs equipment depending upon the courses that they take. And if they are doing any student loan in excess of this, then the student loan repayment is also covered in the 529 plan. So how much should I save for each child? Again, there is no right or wrong answer to this question. So college tuition fees would be like, who knows what it would be after 10 years or 15 years. They are growing at a very fast pace, but a good target would be at least $50,000 per child. So whether your child does in-state, out-state tuition, your state, so that that is in nobody's hands. So maybe like start with a number, like I should have saved $50,000 at least by the first year my kid goes to college. So you can even do a $70,000 or a $60,000 plan. It can cover like their master's degree also. So nowadays nobody simply stops with an undergraduate degree. So if you're planning an undergraduate and a master's degree, it can be $70,000. If it's an undergraduate degree only, it can be $50,000. Or if your child goes to the same city, a university in the same city in which you live, then your expenses would be low. You don't don't need to pay for boarding and lodging, food and other expenses, just the fees. So generally undergraduate degrees cost around $30,000, some states $50,000. If you go out of state, whether your child is in H1B, H4 visa, so all these factors would make the cost high or low. So to save $50,000 in 10 years at 1% rate of return, you have to save $395 every month. So assuming your child is now 8, so they're going to college in 10 years. So to save $50,000 in 10 years at 1% rate of return, you need to save $395 every month. So there are a lot of calculators like this. You can customize your child's age, then the amount you want to save, and then you can calculate how much you need to invest every month. Okay, then like what happens if your child skips college? I don't see a situation where that happens. We don't let them do that. But let us say that there are some circumstances in which your child doesn't do college. So you can very easily change the beneficiary. So like you can convert the 529 plan in your name, and you can do a course. I don't see that happening, but that is an option. You can change the beneficiary to your spouse. You can change the beneficiary to your other child, or you can even do it to your grandkid. So you can simply change the beneficiary. Or you can withdraw the money if they are not doing a course and you don't see them doing the course at any time. Then you can withdraw the money, and you have to pay that all the taxes, like whatever your state income tax is, you have to pay. And there's also an yearly withdrawal penalty of 10%. You lose 10% more. So you will. So here it's a typo. It says payback sales tax. It's payback income tax. So that is a typo here. So you can take that money back. You'll only lose 10% and the pending income tax on that if that happens. What happens if you change your state? That is perfectly fine. You can live in one state. You can invest in its 529 plan, and your child can go to college in another state. That is not a problem at all. So the 529 plan will fund it. So you can use it for your child's education in another state. And if you live in one state and then you change your state, so you can go and do another 529 plan in that second state. So that is also not an issue. So you don't have to worry about changing your states. Can you change the beneficiary? Yes, you can. So that's not an issue. So again, I won't say 529 plan is for everybody, particularly if you live in a zero income tax state. You don't see the state tax advantage in it, only the savings advantage. It brings you some discipline. It brings some discipline into your spending habits. So if you live in a high income tax state, like New York, for example, it is good for you. You can avoid state income tax by investing the maximum. And people who want to save money earlier itself, and people who want to 100% know that they're going to stay in United States. So if your visa is in some issue, like you don't know whether you'll be here for the next 15 years or not, then this plan is not for you. You are better off not by investing in it. But again, if you are like completely determined that your child is going to do his or her degree in US, then this is for you. So who don't need this 529 plan? Again, if visa status is an issue, and the residents of states who don't get tax break, so they only get savings benefits. There is no tax advantage in it. But still you can do that, because anyway you have to save that money for your child. So I wouldn't advise anyone to take a student loan. Student loans have so many issues. I'll do a separate video upon student loans. So everyone who plans to put their child in a college in United States, it's advisable to do a 529 plan, irrespective of the tax break and other advantages that you get out of it. Okay, so I hope I have answered the questions that you had in your mind. So do your research. Again, Google your state's name along with the 529 plan provider, and then choose it. You cannot simply invest it in any investment option. They have predetermined investment options. Some are 100% safe, some have some equities or stocks exposed, so which means you are doing taking some risk, which I wouldn't advise doing, because don't gamble your children's education on stocks. Put that money in safe returns. So check your state's details. Again, there are 50 states, 50 different rules, laws, tax laws, and providers. So do your research, and if you plan it properly, it would be a very good choice for your kids. Okay, we will meet in another video. Have a good day.